Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D. Wilson.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. How is everybody today? You are listening to the Caring Generation radio program coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. The Caring Generation focuses on the conversation of caring, giving us permission to talk and laugh. We must remember to laugh about aging, being a caregiver, health, well-being, work, life, family balance, and everything in between. You're not alone. Please invite your family, friends, coworkers, and others to join us each week on The Caring Generation, where we talk about how to be proactive to avoid surprises about health, well-being, caring for ourselves and loved ones. Helpful information for caregivers and aging adults is on my website at PamelaDWilson.com, in my caregiving library, online support groups, and online courses. This week, we'll be talking about memory loss. How do you know if the memory loss you are seeing is normal memory loss or something more serious, like a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's disease? I'll share my Signs of Dementia Checklist during this show, and we'll also get a medical perspective in the second segment of this hour from Dr. Jonathan Graff-Radford, Associate Professor of Neurology from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Dr. Graff-Radford specializes in mild cognitive impairment, vascular cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, and frontotemporal dementia. He is a co-investigator in the Mayo Clinic Alzheimer's Disease Research Center and the Mayo Clinic Study on Aging. He has an amazing background and information you won't want to miss coming your way in our next segment about the risk factors for dementia and Alzheimer's disease. As we talked about last week, caregivers will continue to do more and more related to medical-type tasks and have more responsibility for the care of loved ones. It's better to be prepared to reduce the stress and worry that many caregivers experience by responding to all of these unexpected situations and caregiving crisis. Some of these crises result from the shock of learning that a loved one has dementia or Alzheimer's. How might this happen? An aging parent causes a serious car accident. They drive on the wrong side of the road, cross lanes of traffic, or they get lost. How many of you have ever imagined that you might receive a call from the police 100 miles away from your parents' home, and you are being asked to go pick them up and take them home? I have 20 years of examples. The point is that unless you know the signs of memory loss and are with a loved one on a regular basis to notice the signs, an aging parent or spouse may be experiencing memory loss and you will never know. Small changes over time might be slight. These changes are easier for a spouse to notice because of being with a husband or a wife over a long period of time and day in and day out. What do you look for? Very early signs are difficulty with numbers, managing money, balancing a checkbook, disorganization, or struggling to do a task that was previously very easy to do. Here's an example. I had a client whose wife was the organizer of the church newsletter. The newsletter was created and emailed every month for years. No delays, no errors. All of a sudden, his wife was having difficulty using the computer. The newsletter was late. There were misspellings. For his wife, who did this task routinely, this was a major change in her abilities and behavior. This change indicated the very early beginnings of Alzheimer's disease. Another example is a much younger individual who was a salesperson at a computer company. He traveled, attended meetings, and went to conventions. All of a sudden, colleagues and coworkers were coming up to him talking about a meeting that happened yesterday or a report that was due, and he didn't remember. He took these lapses of memory very seriously and was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. Let's talk about memory loss that happens but isn't related to Alzheimer's or dementia. We all worry about having memory loss, about being forgetful. We misplace our keys or other items, forget an appointment. If you are a caregiver, this forgetfulness may result from stress and trying to do too many things at once. Many caregivers don't get enough sleep at night. Our brains need restful sleep to process everything that's going on in our minds. Some medications can also affect memory. Examples are Paxil, cimetidine, oxybutynin, amitriptyline, nortriptyline, even cold or allergy medications, and some blood pressure medications. Ask your doctor or check with your pharmacist if you start taking a prescription and all of a sudden you're having lapses in memory. A too slow or too fast thyroid can cause a long list of problems, including memory loss. A blood test can diagnose thyroid concerns. Ask your doctor. Depression, which is very common in caregivers and older adults, can also result in memory loss, as well as apathy, which is just not caring about anything. Then you have excessive sleep, under or overeating. Let's add to this substance abuse. Drinking too much alcohol can interfere with short-term memory loss. There is such a thing as alcohol-related dementia. I have had clients who were lifelong drinkers who had this diagnosis. Other substances can also cause memory loss. Having a vitamin B12 deficiency can result in memory loss. Some pain medications and cholesterol medications can do the same. If you're taking any of these, do not stop. Ask your doctor about the possibility of medication causing the memory loss. Ask to have your memory tested. There are some very basic tests with the acronyms of MMSE, SLUMS, and MOCA that can indicate very early memory loss. One of the main reasons that people have dementia that is undiagnosed is that they don't want to know. People will avoid talking about memory loss and will never report the issues to a doctor for testing. This type of thinking in the long run will result in care issues for family or loved ones or even care neglect if there's no one to notice or to assist. These situations where someone has memory loss that goes undiagnosed are very sad, especially when a serious accident or harm happens to the person who becomes unsafe to live alone and at home. Many of these individuals became my clients. I was appointed their guardian through the court system and because there was no one else to care for them. Not wanting to know, not getting a diagnosis, can place you in a situation where you will eventually give up control of your life to someone else. You must hope that this someone else is responsible, ethical, honest, and not someone who will take advantage of you or neglect your care, because that happens all too frequently. After this break, we're going to talk more about risk factors for dementia and Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Jonathan Graff-Radford, he is an associate professor of neurology at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. He is going to be joining us. Stay with me. We'll be right back after this break.
French Rastafarian baker Chef Hugues Mott is a fourth-generation baker and has worked in 11 countries across 3 continents. Born in Mulhouse, France, he began apprenticing in his father's bakery at age 12 and has devoted his life to learning cultures of the world from inside kitchens across the globe. He also teaches traditional French baking by hosting demonstrations and classes, and his passion for baking is reflected in his delicious confections. With a deep respect for discipline and his Rastafarian way of life, Chef Hugues Mott exemplifies commitment to tradition and culture in a global world. Traveling extensively and combining a myriad of flavors into his recipes, Chef Hugues Mott brings a unique approach to baking. To read more about the French Rastafarian baker, visit www.frenchchefhugues.com. That's Hugues. Bon appetit and bless up.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. You're listening to The Caring Generation, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. We are back to talk about risk factors for dementia and Alzheimer's disease with Dr. Jonathan Graff-Radford, Associate Professor of Neurology from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Doctor, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here.
You are a neurologist who specializes in memory loss. Some of our listeners may not know what a neurologist is. Can you explain why seeing a neurologist is beneficial if somebody suspects that they have memory loss?
Yeah, so a neurologist is a medical doctor who specializes in treating disorders of the nervous system, which includes the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. And some neurologists subspecialize in dementia, and they may be called cognitive neurologists or behavioral neurologists, and usually that requires a little bit of extra training. And getting to your second question of why it's important to be seen if you're having memory loss, it turns out there's several different types of providers that may have differing levels, comfort levels with memory problems. But geriatricians or geriatric psychiatrists and neurologists all may have a lot of expertise in getting to a diagnosis and treatment plan for these disorders. And it's important to get evaluated because for several reasons. First, there may be reversible causes of memory problems that can be identified during the evaluation, and certainly we'd want those to be identified. But also it's important if you do have a condition like Alzheimer's disease as the cause of your memory problems to get an early diagnosis so you can plan accordingly and set up a treatment program as early as possible and start making important lifestyle changes that may even potentially slow down the course of the disease.
And I do a lot of research. I've been reading, and there's some studies out there that say that memory loss can begin 10 to 20 years before a diagnosis. What steps do you take to diagnose memory loss?
That's a great question. And I think you're referring to some of the longitudinal studies that have been funded recently where they're taking people who have normal cognition, who may be at risk for developing Alzheimer's disease, and they're following them over time and measuring their memory over time. And the first thing that they've been finding is that it turns out the proteins that cause Alzheimer's disease, there's two of them. One of them is called amyloid, and the other one is called tau. They've been able to determine that they start depositing in the brain up to 25 years before the first symptoms develop. And then approximately 5 to 10 years before a diagnosis is made, if you're following people, you'll start to see a slight change in their memory. So it does occur before diagnosis. And in the clinic, we might diagnose these memory problems by doing a bedside memory test, where we're asking people to recall words we give them a few minutes later. Or we may do a more formal memory test where we do a 4-hour neuropsychologic evaluation. And the advantage of the longer memory test is we can compare a person's performance to other individuals of their same age and sex and to see if they're performing where we might expect them to perform.
And then let's talk about heart disease. Does high blood pressure or high cholesterol over time contribute to memory loss?
It turns out there's been consistent studies that vascular risk factors like high blood pressure and high cholesterol increase your risk of memory loss and dementia, and it's particularly important in midlife. So that's where the strongest evidence exists that these risk factors increase your risk for memory loss. And there's actually a recent study published called the Sprint Mind study, and they took people, and half of the group they treated to kind of conventional blood pressure targets, and the other half they treated to a very aggressive blood pressure target of 120/80. And the group that was treated aggressively, not only did they have better cardiac outcomes, but they also had a decreased risk of developing mild cognitive impairment. So I think there's continuing evidence that these are important risk factors for developing memory loss and dementia.
So we all have to be very careful about our blood pressure, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
I've also had clients who had strokes who then came down with stroke-related dementia. Do strokes always result in memory loss?
That's a great question. So there's a specific type of memory loss, which we call vascular cognitive impairment, which is secondary to strokes. And these strokes can either occur in critical structures of the brain that are important for memory, and you can have a single stroke that results in dementia, or more commonly, someone might have multiple strokes and the damage builds up over time and they develop memory problems in a stepwise fashion. So they have a stroke, they get worse, they have another stroke, and they get worse again. And but it turns out that not everyone who has strokes gets memory problems. So over the age of 65, about 25% of people have strokes they don't know about. And most of them don't have memory problems, but they're important to know about because they are a risk factor for developing these memory problems. And another good reason to treat your blood pressure and high cholesterol, because treating those will reduce your risk of stroke.
So it sounds like high blood pressure and managing all of that can help not only prevent the memory loss, but the strokes that go along with it. So we are going to continue this conversation with Dr. Jonathan Graff-Radford after this break. I'm Pamela D. Wilson, your host. You are listening to The Caring Generation live on the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. My goal is to make The Caring Generation available to you where you are. You can listen to the weekly podcast replays on my website, on iTunes, Google Podcasts, and my YouTube channel. Stay with us. We will be right back.
According to the American Nurses Association, there are approximately 3.5 to 4 million nurses in the United States. So where do all these nurses work? What kind of roles do they have? What kind of education and training help to prepare them for so many different settings? What kind of impact do nurses have on patient outcomes? The World Health Organization has announced that 2020 will be the Year of the Nurse, honoring the 200th birth anniversary of Florence Nightingale. An international initiative called Nursing Now is underway to raise the profile of nursing. The National Academy of Medicine has convened a committee to create the Future of Nursing 2020 to 2030 that will focus on how the nursing profession can create a culture of health, reduce health disparities, and improve the health and well-being of the U.S. population. Learn more and join Joyce Batchelor on All About Nursing, Wednesdays from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on the BBM Global Network. Mike Zorek, a 3-time California state champion in Greco-Roman wrestling at 114 pounds. Mike, blind since birth, was born in Hartford, Connecticut. Connecticut. He was a 6-time national placer, including 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and 2 fourths. He also won the Veterans Folk-Style Wrestling twice at 152 pounds. In all these tournaments, he was the only blind competitor. Nancy Zorick, a creative spirit whose talents have taken her to the stage and into galleries and exhibitions in several states. Her father, a commercial artist who shared his instruments with his daughter and helped her fine-tune her natural abilities, influenced her decision to follow in his footsteps. Ms. Zorick has enjoyed a fruitful career doing what she loves. Listen Saturday mornings at 12 Eastern for the Nancy and Mike Show for heartwarming stories and interesting talk on the BBM Global Network.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. You are listening to the Caring Generation radio program for caregivers and aging adults, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. Let's continue our conversation with Dr. Jonathan Graff-Radford from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. Doctor, can you talk about the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia?
Yeah, those are two terms that often get intertwined, but they are different. So dementia is a syndromic term for anyone who has cognitive issues, usually involving 2 cognitive domains, for example, memory and language problems or memory and visuospatial problems. And these cognitive problems are bad enough that they interfere with them performing their typical activities of daily living. So they may interfere with managing their medications by themselves. It may cause them to get lost while driving or missing paying bills, missing appointments. So it doesn't refer to any specific cause. It's just a syndrome of cognitive impairment, and it is an umbrella term that encompasses multiple etiologies or causes. And Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. So Alzheimer's is defined by the presence of 2 hallmark abnormal proteins that deposit in the brain and kind of attack your brain cells or neurons. Those are the amyloid protein and the tau protein. So because Alzheimer's disease is by far the most common cause of dementia, those 2 terms often end up getting used interchangeably, but they are different because there can be other causes of dementia as well.
A listener wanted me to ask you if there is a link between Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. Is there?
Yes, there is a link. So there actually is a specific form of dementia where people have features of both Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease called dementia with Lewy bodies. And when we've looked at the brains of these people who have participated in research studies and donated their brains for research, they have both pathologies often present. They have pathologies associated with Parkinson's disease present and pathologies associated with Alzheimer's disease present. And it causes a unique constellation of symptoms. So in addition to Parkinson's symptoms, they may get hallucinations, fluctuations in their cognition, and they may get an unusual symptom called dream enactment behavior, where while sleeping, they punch, kick, yell, or scream. And all of those kind of make this form of dementia characteristic.
There is this don't ask, don't tell perception about doctors and memory loss. Where's the line between a patient having to ask if they have memory loss and the duty of the physician to diagnose and explain the consequences? So like you said at the beginning, so that people can plan.
Yeah, I think that's a great question and a big misconception because in my experience and our experience here at Mayo Clinic, the vast majority of patients want to know what's going on when they're having difficulty with memory. There are a subset of people who aren't aware of their memory problems, but when they are, they typically want answers because they do want to plan, as you said, and they do want to look for potentially reversible causes. And if there's not a reversible cause, get put on a treatment course to manage the symptoms and as you mentioned, be able to think about what they want in the future. So I agree there is this misconception, but I think when you talk to actual patients, they really do want to know.
And then another research statistic I found, I read that 50% of older adults over 85 have dementia or memory loss, but they're not diagnosed. Is that true, and why?
There's some confusing data out there, and so I think I always go to the Alzheimer's Association puts out great data every year, and so I think if you think about it by age group, that is helpful. So about 3% of people 65 to 74 will have Alzheimer's dementia. That increases to 17% from 75 to 84, and 32% from age 85 and above. And I think where that 50% comes from is this idea that I alluded to earlier in our conversation. It's that people get the deposition of the amyloid protein and tau protein years and sometimes decades before they have a first clinical symptom. So if you include people who have these proteins but have no symptoms, then the number can escalate to that 50% number. But keep in mind, not everyone who gets these proteins in the brain will develop dementia. They may die from something else. And so I think more accurately, the number is around 30% over age 85. I hope that clears that up.
And then just quickly, we've got about a couple minutes left. In your opinion, what can the average person do to avoid being diagnosed with Alzheimer's? And if you can give your website page, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, great questions. So I think we've already talked about it earlier, but there's certain lifestyles that, based on epidemiologic data, have consistently been shown to reduce the risk of dementia. Many of those include treating vascular risk factors, as we mentioned, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes. Additionally, there continues to be evidence that exercise, particularly cardiovascular exercise where you get your heart rate up, can slow down cognitive decline. And now that they have very sophisticated ways to measure structures in the brain, they've actually shown that if you take people over age 65 and you put them through a cardiovascular exercise program consisting of walking on a treadmill, so nothing too rigorous, you can increase the size of your hippocampus, which is the memory structure of the brain that's targeted in Alzheimer's disease. And so the combination of treating vascular risk factors and exercise can be very potent. And then I hate to interrupt you, but we've got to get out to a break. Can you give your website really quick so we don't miss that? Oh, absolutely. So you can find all of our information at mayoclinic.com and search for the dementia topics under that. Thank you very much.
Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. It was such great information. I so appreciate you having you with us here tonight. We are headed out to a break. We'll be right back.
Dr. RC will share extraordinary resources and services that promote educational success, as well as making a difference in the lives of all social workers, as well as the lives of children, adolescents, and teens of today. She will have open discussions addressing many of the issues that we face about our youth and how being employed in the uniquely skilled profession of social work for over 18 years has taught invaluable lessons through her personal experiences. She will also provide real-life facts, examples, and personal stories that will confirm that why serving as a child advocate is extremely beneficial when addressing the needs of the whole child. Listen live Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and tune in radio as Dr. RC will provide thought-provoking information that will empower, encourage, and strengthen students, families, and communities across our nation. You can also visit her at soarwithkatie.com.
Attorney Renee Marie Smith is changing the way we sell real estate. She wrote a series of books called My Short Sale Guru Guides for all real estate practitioners. Whether you're a homeowner wanting to understand the process, an agent who has been handling short sales for years, or an industry analyst wanting to know how short sales impact your business, Renee uses her vast real estate experience to take a comprehensive look at the recent market phenomena while relaying it in an easy-to-understand format. Through her company, Smith Title Services, Renee has counseled thousands of short sale participants and processed in excess of 1,000 short sales. Her knowledge is transformational for real estate professionals and laymen alike, and her live presentations provide people the opportunity to ask specific questions about their issues. Buy her books and schedule her to speak at your next event. Visit www.smithtitleservices.com or call 305-705-3428 or email her at renee@smithtitleservices.com. Isn't it time to sell your property today? Learn the My Short Sale Guru way.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. You are listening to the Caring Generation radio program for caregivers and aging adults, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. We're back talking about my Signs for Dementia Checklist. Are you noticing that aging parents or spouses are forgetting conversations? Do you receive multiple phone calls at work in the same day? Did you tell your parents that you're going to visit, and when you show up, they're asking you why you are at their house? Are they forgetting doctor and other appointments? Have you checked the voicemail on their phone? There might be messages there that are months old because they forgot how to check their voicemail. Then are there little sticky notes all over the house to serve as reminders because they kind of know that they are starting to forget information? Are you noticing piles of mail or stuff collecting on the kitchen table or in other parts of the house? This means that your loved one may be having difficulty organizing and sorting through mail. It also might be possible that bills are not being paid. Will your parents let you look at their checkbook and credit card statements just to check? If so, look for checks written to charities, which can indicate poor judgment. Look for bounced checks. Look for unusual charges on credit card statements or late charges telling you that the bill wasn't paid on time. Difficulty with math and managing money are very early signs of memory loss that can be disastrous if important bills like health insurance go unpaid and lapse. I've had this happen with some of my clients, and it takes a lot of work to resolve the issues. Then start looking around the house. Was your mom a great housekeeper and now there's dust and dirt everywhere? What are you noticing that is out of character? Were your parents usually always neat and now everything's disorganized? Trash isn't being taken out, the pets aren't being cared for, there might be spoiled or dated foods in the refrigerator and in the cupboards. Has your aging parent lost weight? That may tell you that they're forgetting to eat, even though they tell you that they do eat. Put them on the scale and check out the results. If they take medications, look at the bottle and check out the last order date and count the number of pills. Forgetting to reorder and take medications is very common with memory loss. It may be something that you need to take over managing for them. Are you noticing multiple purchases of the same item stacking up? That usually means that a parent went to the store, forgot that they already had 2 jars of peanut butter or 2 boxes of cereal, and they bought more. Speaking of going to the grocery store, how is their driving? Are you noticing dents in the car, scratches, any type of damage? Would you go on an errand and trust your parent to drive you? If not, it might be time to have that conversation. Taking away the car from a parent who has memory loss is traumatic for the caregiver and for the aging parent. That car represents independence. How many of you remember when you got your driver's permit and you couldn't wait to learn to drive? Your parents were probably worried about car accidents and skyrocketing insurance premiums. Today, the roles are reversed. You have the same worries about accidents. It's essential to have a plan for a parent when they can no longer drive. If they give up the car, how will they get to the grocery store and doctor appointments? Will you be that transportation, or are there other alternatives? Know that this decision will probably be one of the biggest battles you will have as a caregiver, unless your aging parent has already had a few scares and they realize that maybe they shouldn't be driving anymore. Driving and talking about money, these are what I call the hot potato subjects. It's easy to get burned if you're not careful how you start these conversations. If you approach either in a blaming or shaming manner, it's not going to work. Your parent may know that they're having difficulty, and the last thing they want is one of their children telling them things that they are doing wrong or places where they might be failing. The best approach is a compassionate approach. Something like, Mom or Dad, I know this must be really hard, especially to have this conversation with one of your children. I'm worried about you driving the car, your bill's not getting paid, you not taking medications. Name whatever the issue is, and then ask them what they think about having you help. Something like, Mom or Dad, how would you feel about me helping you with this project? That is a subject that you might have to reapproach a few times or give them some time to think about the subject, and honestly, they may even forget. If they do, that tells you that the situation is even more serious than you originally thought. At this point, I would also recommend going to the doctor with them to have memory testing completed and ask to have a referral to a neurologist. Remember our conversation earlier in the show with Dr. Jonathan Graff-Radford? He's a neurologist from the Mayo Clinic. Specialists are the best at diagnosing memory loss. Your primary care physician isn't an expert. And the earlier that memory loss is diagnosed, the more proactive everybody can be to make sure that loved ones are safe and that a plan exists for what you are going to do when memory loss gets worse. And at that point, you want to be sure to talk about medications. There are so many mixed feelings about taking medications for memory loss. My personal opinion, based on 20 years of being responsible for loved ones, is that the medications for memory loss, for dementia, for Alzheimer's disease, they do make a difference. Some healthcare providers want to reduce costs, and so they may not want to prescribe. This is an area where you have to advocate, and I do say advocate very strongly. This is the life of your parent or a spouse. Don't be swayed into not getting the care and the medical treatment and the medications that are needed that can be beneficial for your loved one. After this break, we're going to continue to talk more about the Signs of Dementia Checklist. A reminder that you can share this program with others. Podcast replays of each week's show and the show transcripts are on my website at PamelaDWilson.com. You can go to the media tab and then the Caring Generation radio program. Please share this show with everybody that you know so that we can make caregiving something that we talk about. You can also follow me on social media. On Facebook, I do daily live videos. You can follow me. My page is PamelaDWilson.page. On Twitter, I am Caregiving Speak. On Instagram, I am Wilson Pamela D. I am everywhere. On LinkedIn, you could also find me as Pamela D. Wilson, Caregiver Expert. This is Pamela D. Wilson, Caregiver Expert. I'm your host. You are listening to The Caring Generation live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100 and TuneIn Radio. Please do share the show, share the podcast with everyone that you know so that we can make caregiving something that we talk about. We'll be right back after this break.
Joseph A. Moylan is the owner of Ion Health, which specializes in very unique medical devices. Ion Health offers biomats, alkalife, and frequency machines. Biomats are a far infrared and negative ion emitting FDA-approved medical device. With many different sizes available, you can place them on your bed, on a massage table, or on a seat in your car. It is an unobtrusive way to health. Alkalife machines are water ionizers that cleanse and raise the alkalinity of your tap water, making high alkaline water. Frequency machines utilize certain frequencies to kill viruses and bacteria. These devices are safe and effective. Coming from a health-conscious background and studying physiology at the Academy of Natural Health, Joseph A. Moylan has 15 years of experience in the health field and wants to help you live a healthy, long life. Visit www.ionhealthbiomats.weebly.com or call 765-520-2988. Don't let your health go astray. Get in touch today.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. You're listening to The Caring Generation, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. Please share The Caring Generation with your friends, family, coworkers, the companies where you work, your social groups, at church, and everywhere. 1 in 4 people that you know are caregivers looking for hope, help, and support that is here every Wednesday night on The Caring Generation and on my website at PamelaDWilson.com. Let's continue talking about the Signs of Dementia Checklist. In our last segment, we talked about the importance of getting a diagnosis so that you can plan for care. Extremely important. But let's say that you waited too long to go to the doctor or some sort of accident. Maybe a car accident happened, and this is what caused you to go to the doctor. You're in 1 or 2 stages, and I'm really hoping that you're in the earlier stage, which I will call scenario A, where your loved one can still have a conversation about memory loss. This is beneficial because you can talk openly about being forgetful. Gosh, Mom or Dad, being forgetful must be awful. I totally understand. When you can talk about that, then you can talk openly about the progression of memory loss and actually have conversations about what your aging parent or spouse might want for care. And if estate planning documents don't exist, now is that time to complete the power of attorney, medical, financial, living will, or a trust. The reason to have these documents and people assigned to these roles is that eventually your loved one won't be able to make decisions or express his or her wishes, and the person appointed as the power of attorney, in fact, will be the person who makes all of those decisions. If you have more questions about power of attorney, visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com. Go to How I Help, and you can find information on my courses. So let's talk about scenario B. Let's say that you take your loved one to the doctor, and because that memory loss is so advanced, they can't even follow the conversation about the diagnosis. Your aging parent or spouse, they might be angry, might be denying that they're forgetful. That can also happen under scenario A, but under B, it's highly unlikely that they will even want to talk about having memory loss. And reasoning or trying to give details or explain, that doesn't work because by this time, any type of detailed or lengthy conversation is frustrating for them because by the time you get to the end of the sentence, they have forgotten the beginning of the sentence. At this point, the brain just can't process too much information. And this is where the caregiver enters the picture in the Signs of Dementia Checklist. The checklist for the caregiver is to learn about memory loss. Learn everything that you can because this is a journey that will test your patience and on some days make you feel like you are the person with the memory loss because of all of the stress. I've had caregivers tell me that they think that their aging parent is doing things to drive them crazy. These things like forgetting information, asking the same question, repeating information, they're not done purposely. This is where the brain just goes haywire. These repetitive behaviors also are called perseveration, and they can occur more often if your aging parent or spouse is feeling nervous, or maybe they're feeling uncomfortable. If you become upset, they will become more upset. People with Alzheimer's have this sense of upset and danger. It's like horses have horse sense. They see the look in your eyes, the frustration on your face, the frown on your mouth, and your parent or spouse becomes upset. We'll talk about how to respond behaviors in another program in detail, but today we'll talk about them a little bit because behaviors are a whole subject unto themselves. And if you are a caregiver for someone with Alzheimer's or memory loss, you know this. We can talk about managing repetitive behaviors, and this is called redirection. When a loved one repeats information, you are better off changing the subject or changing the scenery. Let's say that mom keeps saying that she wants to go home when she is home. She's probably thinking of her parents' home. A good response would be, well, Mom, tell me about your home, to distract her. Or you can say, you know what, I'll take you home after we eat dinner. After dinner, Mom will probably even forget that she wanted to go home. So more items on the Signs of Dementia Checklist. And these can be signs before the diagnosis, and if not, they will definitely happen after the diagnosis. Your parent was a neat dresser, always wore clean clothing, fingernails clean, Mom had her hair set, she wore makeup. Today, they look like they've been wearing the same clothes for the past week. There are food stains down the front of a shirt or a blouse. The clothing is wrinkled. Your parent has a body odor, and you're feeling a little embarrassed. This is actually more about you than them. Another item on the list is they forget to change clothes. They forget to bathe. And if you ask, they will say, well, honey, I took a shower this morning. I brushed my teeth. What are you talking about? And you're thinking, oh, I know you haven't done this. What do I do? Be patient, be kind, recognize that their memory is faulty, and suggest that maybe you help them take a shower or get some clean clothes out. They will either respond very well to this or they will respond very badly. If there's any CNAs who work in care communities who are listening, you all know what is about to happen. And God bless you. Your loved one might have a violent reaction saying like, well, I'm not filthy. What are you talking about? I change my clothes. I take care of myself. Your parent or spouse might feel insulted. Changing clothing and bathing are common refusals of care by aging parents and spouses. Their brain is thinking, who are you to tell me that I'm not clean or that I can't take care of myself because I have been taking care of myself my entire life. I don't need you, my child, telling me what to do. You, on the other hand, are embarrassed about your parents. You might be thinking, oh my gosh, how am I going to get them to participate? This is exactly why I continue to suggest joining a support group or taking a course. Both are on my website at PamelaDWilson.com. So many caregivers feel challenged, uncertain, and worried about caring for aging loved ones when all of these unexpected things happen. This is all part of being a caregiver. The more quickly that you can accept that you don't know everything, the easier it will be for you to seek help. Share the Caring Generation with others. Podcast replays of the Caring Generation are available on my website at PamelaDWilson.com, along with the show transcript a few days after this show. After this break, we'll talk more about refusing care, one of the things that happens when caring for a loved one with memory loss. I'm Pamela D. Wilson, your host. You're listening to the Caring Generation live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. We'll be right back.
MJ Dammit is the owner of Expect to be Empowered, a company whose specialty is empowering people to live their best life by following their heart and accepting themselves unconditionally. After studying and making personal changes, MJ now focuses on giving others tools for self-empowerment. She provides individual and group workshops for people who are physically, emotionally, and spiritually blocked. Inspired by her work at Expect to be Empowered, MJ authored the book Waves of Blue Light, Heal the Heart and Free the Soul, with accompanying empowerment cards. She is a Spirit Book of the Year Gold Medal Living Now Book Award winner. And her book is a #1 Amazon bestseller in spirituality and was a 2012 Gold Medal winner, recognized as the Living Now Spirit Book of the Year. An inspirational speaker, MJ will show you how you can repurpose every area of your life. Your life did not just happen to you. You chose it, which means you can change it. Visit www.expecttobeempowered.com or call 866-264-8024.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
The earliest human societies worshipped a female goddess. Little is known about this time because we did not always have a written recorded history. It was around 3100 BC when the Sumerians invented the first written language, and everything that preceded this time is prehistory. The prehistorical record includes all of women's unwritten history from 30,000 BC to the time that men began achieving political power around 3000 BC. Male feminist artist Kimberly Berg maintains a strong position in educating and inspiring both men and women through his devotional art to the goddess in all women. Studying their history is paramount to understanding who women were and who they would become later, living in a patriarchal society. To learn more about this important time in our history, go to www.isisrising.net.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. You're listening to the Caring Generation radio program for caregivers and aging adults, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100, and TuneIn Radio. Let's continue to talk about refusals. Refusing care happens even when memory loss isn't present. How many of your parents will say to you, I don't need any help, when really they need a lot of help? For persons with memory loss, refusing care is normal. You ask a question, are you hungry? The answer, no. Do you want to take a bath? No. You look tired. Do you want to go to bed? No. If you haven't guessed by now, the secret is not to ask a yes or no question. If any of you listening are salespeople, what do you know? A confused mind says no. A fearful mind says no. Convincing a loved one who has Alzheimer's or dementia to do something that you want them to do takes them to learn new skills. Imagine this. You're at the doctor's office and your mom or dad has an incontinence accident. Fortunately, you thought to bring clothing, depends, all of that, but your parent refuses to go to the restroom with you to change, and you're sitting in the middle of a crowded waiting room. You explain to mom or dad that you want to take them to change, and they throw a fit. Your parent starts to scream and yell. You're so embarrassed because you want to crawl under a chair or be anywhere else but where you are at the moment. The other people in the waiting room, they're looking at you because they don't realize your mom or dad has Alzheimer's. What do? You go to the front desk and you say that you're going to take your mom or dad to the restroom. But when you come back to your mom or dad, you tell them that, oh my gosh, the receptionist told me that we are going to have a very long wait and that you want to take a walk because you have to go to the restroom. Your parent probably already forgot what you talked to them about 2 seconds ago. This fibbing or this tall tale is called therapeutic fibbing. Some caregivers might see it as lying and be concerned about misleading a loved one, but here's the bottom line. If a little fib is going to encourage mom or dad to take a walk with you that gets them to the bathroom so that you can change their clothing and clean them up, then you learn the skill of therapeutic fibbing. It falls right in line with redirecting conversations. The other skill that you will quickly learn is that telling the truth is not good. Let's say it's afternoon and your mom is worried about getting home from school on time to be home for dinner. The last thing you say to your mom is, "You're not in school anymore and your parents are dead." That would be cruel. Bringing your mom into your world serves no purpose. As a caregiver, your responsibility is go where your parent is, and if it's in school, then you say, "Mom, I'll make sure that you're home in time for dinner," and you give her a hug. We'll continue to have more conversations about memory loss on future programs. If nobody has told you that you are amazing or hasn't thanked you this week for everything that you do as a caregiver, or in helping others, let me say thank you. Do something nice for yourself, even if it's taking 10 minutes to go for a walk, listen to your favorite music, read a book that supports a positive attitude. Caregivers, I have to remind you, you must take care of yourselves so that you can continue to take care of your loved ones. And caregivers, those of you who work in care communities, it is the same thing. You have to take care of yourself. This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert. I'm your host. I thank you for joining me on the Caring Generation radio program for caregivers and aging adults, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network, Channel 100 and TuneIn Radio. Please do tell everyone you know about the show and the podcasts that are available on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, along with the transcripts a couple days after the show. I look forward to being with you again next Wednesday night. Invite your family, your friends to join us. God bless you all. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow and a good week until we're together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.